All right, welcome back. Today, we're taking a bit of a road trip into the anatomy of American highway horror. We're going to explore how the sheer, unprecedented scale of the United States birthed a very specific type of modern folklore. And then, because you know we love breaking things down in this explainer, we're actually going to look at the exact filmmaking techniques you can use to recreate those terrifying myths on screen.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with America's vast, lonely highways, before cruising right into the legends of phantom automobiles. From there, we'll hit UFOs and global ghost stories, lighting the perfect scare, designing spooky audio elements, and finally, editing the camera shake. Let's dive in.
Section 1. America's vast, lonely highways. The canvas.
To really understand why the American highway is such a fertile breeding ground for horror, we first have to understand the canvas itself, right? The United States acquired a massive, sprawling landmass incredibly rapidly. Think about it. From the early colonial days up to 1776, the nation mostly just hugged the East Coast. But then, in 1803, the Louisiana Purchase literally doubled the size of the country overnight. By the 1840s, with the annexation of Texas and the acquisition of California in the West, the nation suddenly stretched from sea to shining sea. The infrastructure basically had to scramble to catch up, and that resulted in thousands of miles of roads cutting through absolute pitch-black nothingness.
Now, this rapid expansion created an environment of profound isolation. To put that into perspective, back in 1986, Life magazine described Nevada's Highway 50 as the loneliest road in America. They were actually warning people against traveling it without survival gear. When you have miles and miles of desolate desert and deep forests completely separated from civilization, well, the human mind tends to fill in those dark spaces. That profound isolation is exactly where myths are born.
Section 2. Legends of phantom automobiles. The folklore.
Okay, put yourself in the early 20th century for a second. You are totally used to the slow, predictable pace of a horse and carriage. Then suddenly, these fast, loud, heavy metal automobiles are tearing down those desolate roads. Interestingly enough, human psychology didn't stop being scared of the dark. We literally just upgraded our ghosts. The 19th century phantom carriages pulled by headless horses, they seamlessly transformed into the 20th century phantom automobile. Newspapers started reporting on spectral Buicks, glowing headlights, and ghost cars barreling toward drivers at midnight, breaking all known human speed laws before just vanishing into thin air.
In fact, in 1928, a California rancher named Bob Hill perfectly captured this exact paranoia. He described driving on a lonely highway when suddenly a car with a soft, strange, iridescent light appeared heading squarely toward him on his side of the road. He slammed on the brakes, skidded to a halt, totally bracing for death, and there was no other automobile there. It's a completely terrifying sensory experience that just perfectly captures the anxiety of early highway travel.
Section 3. UFOs and Global Ghost Stories. The Export.
As technology kept advancing, the phantom car evolved into something even more high-tech, the UFO. Nevada State Route 375 runs right near the top-secret Area 51. For decades, travelers reported strange lights and alien activity on this super desolate stretch, so in 1996, the state officially renamed it the Extraterrestrial Highway. They literally turned localized paranoia and isolation into a highly marketable global tourist attraction.
And you know what? These stories didn't just stay in America. They became massive global digital exports. Just look at this translated title from an actual modern Hindi YouTube video. It perfectly shows how the trope of the mysterious vanishing midnight black car crosses borders. But it's not just the cars. Another huge digital export is the American legend of the house that called back. International channels are captivating millions with this story. It's about this 22-year-old named Ethan who walks past a local silent house. Suddenly, his phone rings. The caller ID says it's his mom, but she passed away years ago. He answers, there's silence, and then a whisper, "Ethan, don't come home." He turns around, a door slams, and suddenly he's locked inside that very house. His phone rings again, and this time the screen says Ethan calling. He hears his own voice say, "You finally came back." The next morning, the police find the house totally empty. Just his phone on the floor, with a final voice recording warning people never to answer. People on the complete opposite side of the planet are thoroughly hooked by the exact same American horror mythos.
So we have the history, the isolation, and this wildly viral folklore. But what if you want to recreate this exact feeling for an audience? How do filmmakers practically manufacture this specific brand of terror on screen?
Section 4. Lighting the perfect scare. The execution.
Okay, funny story. While I was researching night lighting techniques for this explainer, I actually encountered a modern digital phantom, a Cloudflare bot verification screen. Sometimes the ghosts are in the machine, right? Literally keeping us from our cinematography tips. But once we proved we were human, we found some absolutely incredible advice.
Once we bypassed the bots, we found the perfect blueprint for simulating a dark, lonely highway. First up, low-key lighting. You basically ditch the traditional three-point setup entirely and use a single harsh light to carve out deep, dramatic shadows on your actor's face. Next is backlighting. Placing a light directly behind your subject, kind of like the blinding headlights of a phantom car, creates these terrifying silhouettes. Finally, underexposing the image deliberately starves the camera of light. This forces the audience to physically strain their eyes in the dark, which wonderfully simulates pure panic.
Section 5. Designing spooky audio elements. The sound.
As any good director will tell you, a visual scare is literally only as good as its sound design. Sound designers rely on two really crucial tools here: risers and stingers. First, you lay down some creepy ambient noise. Then you introduce a riser. This is like a metallic sound or a screech that slowly builds in volume, putting the audience completely on edge. Then you drop a beat of total dead silence before hitting them with a stinger, a deafening, sharp thud. Or, hey, maybe the shrill, unexpected ring of Ethan's cell phone in an empty, silent house. It is basically a biological hack for the human nervous system.
Section 6. Editing the camera shake. The polish.
All right, we've got our shadows and we've got our terrifying sound design. Now it's time for the editing bay. To make our phantom car encounter feel really visceral, we're gonna add a chaotic, handheld documentary feel in Premiere Pro. First, drop the transform effect onto your clip. Here's a pro tip for you. Increase the scale to 1/15. When you shake the footage, you really don't want the black edges bleeding into the frame, so scaling up hides them perfectly. Then, enable position keyframes. Every 3 frames, randomly alter the position. Add some motion blur, and suddenly, your super static tripod shot looks like absolute handheld panic. So we started with the physical vastness of the expanding United States. We watched it breed tales of spectral cars and haunted houses, and then we completely deconstructed the exact lighting, audio, and software tools used to manufacture those nightmares. So I'll leave you with this. What actually scares you the most? Is it the dark, desolate highway itself? The ghostly myths our brains invent just to fill the empty space? Or is it knowing just how easily a few keyframes and sound effects can manipulate our reality? Thanks for hanging out, and keep learning.